There's all kinds of risk to consider when you decide to date someone, and especially if you decide to bring them home for sex on that first night. One woman likely had no clue how dangerous one guy would be to her after bringing him to her place after having drinks at a bar. My next guest shared their thoughts on this hookup that took a very dark and deadly turn.
Now, clearly what was supposed to be a casual hookup led to the murder of this poor woman. As you can see up on the ticker here, that this woman was murdered because this man, well, he had erection issues. He couldn't get his flaccid hard. He couldn't get that limp noodle up, and she laughed at him. And this is why a woman shouldn't laugh at a man's pain, especially when it comes to pain below the waist. Anytime that there's pain or a man just can't figure it out between the legs, you really shouldn't laugh at that guy, because a lot of people do have anger issues. And quite frankly, at 17 years old, if I couldn't get it up, I'd be pissed too. To be suffering from ED at this age is one of the most disappointing things you can possibly imagine. Being short is nowhere near this big of an issue. I'd rather be 4'10" than have this issue, than to not be able to get it up for a woman whenever I tried to pay her to do me. You know, that's the one thing that's really disappointing for this young man in this situation. I bet he was so pissed. I mean, well, obviously, because he killed this woman. I mean, and more than likely it was strangulation. Because whenever somebody snaps in these situations, in these bedrooms or these dirty motel rooms, or in a car or whatever, it was usually choking. I mean, I doubt it was some type of gunshot. Either way, it was still travesty. You know, this is a travesty. This is just really sad, because nobody deserves to die, even sex workers, you know. And, you know, even if it was Jack the Ripper or somebody out there knocking women off, which I think I probably had the wrong serial killer here. But either way, this man was probably going to go on a crusade killing a whole bunch of these chicks, because, well, it sounds like he was probably watching a whole bunch of red pill, you know, channels like Fresh and Fit or The Unplugged Alpha or, you know, Andrew Tate or Wes Watson. Some of these idiots who are out here trying to spew this rhetoric that, you know, OnlyFans models are just the devil. And, well, she laughed at him because, well, she was probably evil at heart. And, well, with that kind of evil, he had to put an end to it. Now his life is pretty much over.
So when you guys hear about this case, we're talking about 28-year-old Blanca, and they didn't give her last name, and 17-year-old Muhammad Ali apparently met casually, went back to her apartment to have sex.
What's really messed up is that this man's name is Muhammad Ali. I guess he was in that bedroom slinging his noodle around in circles like Muhammad's dodging these punches here, and then she decided to jiggle and laugh in his face like this.
He couldn't perform, couldn't get an erection. She laughed at him, and he murdered her.
I bet he was being petty and said, "Bitch, you ain't that fine anyway."
Your thoughts on this, McCallum, Lady McCallum? First of all, when you think about casual sex encounters like this, is that, you know, very dangerous in 2024?
I think Tinder culture has made it even more dangerous, and it's going to stay that way until
the foreseeable future. Because once you swipe right and you see this "it's a match" on your screen, I'm assuming it's one of the biggest dopamine hits a man can find out there on the internet, or just on one of these dating apps in general. Because why else would you swipe right on my profile? Because you clearly had to swipe right on my profile, unless, you know, you were some type of bot or a catfish, which is the only thing I seem to experience on these dating apps, which is why they're all deleted, because quite frankly they don't do anything. And I don't want to be in some situation where I end up all crazed out like these idiots out here on the internet committing murder because they saw "it's a match" and they assumed that the woman was going to automatically cough up the panties. Because, well, obviously, why else would you swipe right on my profile if you didn't want to give it up and you didn't want my D? You clearly wanted it, because there's no other reason why you would do so. I mean, once you do that, it's an automatic guarantee 100% that you're supposed to give up the booty. Why else would you want to give it up? Like, Tinder itself is an automatic hookup profile, basically, is what it is. I mean, once you swipe right, it only means you want to hook up and get together and do the nasty. Why not? You know you want to do the wild thing. That's why you swiped right. That's why I'm on this profile, because I need to get some ass. Now, it's one of those things, like, obviously he was really, you know, disappointing in there because he couldn't get it up. He was already needing the blue pill. He was already needing some good old Viagra or some, you know, next, you know, level drugs to basically get it up or get himself excited to the point where he can actually perform. Or maybe he just was small. Either way, you don't want to be in a situation where you're getting laughed up in these situations, because once you see "it's a match," it's a hella high, I'm assuming.
And of course, Maisha, one of the things that Lady McCallum just hinted upon or touched upon is a man's ego can be very sensitive in a situation when you're talking about having sex.
That's absolutely true. And there's probably more to this young man than we know. He's an adolescent. He's 17 years old, immature, lack of impulse control. And certainly the ego is very fragile. And he happens to be in a state of fragility just based on age and all of the factors that we probably don't know. I don't know if he had a propensity for violence just in general.
He was just probably some angry gamer sitting around alone in his bedroom, all pissed off, angry at the world, crying victim because they made The Last Samurai black in the last Assassin's Creed game. Probably sitting around in a Fresh and Fit chat room or listening to too much MTR or Just Pearly Things, Morocco TV, Unplugged Alpha, all these other loser douchebags like Wes Watson out here on the internet, causing him to go into a rage insanity mode to make him want to kill every woman that's not, some fresh virgin straight out of high school that has never been touched a day in her life with no makeup and no nothing. That's just probably what he is. I mean, he's probably out here vlogging and, sending death threat posts out here on Tumblr and acting like, this is going to be the end of the world. He's going to blow up his school or anything like that. There's probably a track record of something that would have caused you to realize that this might be in his pending future.
But those things could also be contributing factors to this turning into the tragedy that it was.
And like you said, there's something definitely going on that we don't see or we don't know about for him to also videotape it and declare, I killed her, I murdered her.
Well, holy hell, I need to figure out when this man started or hit record on this camera. Because if he did it before all of this happened or before the hookup, that means this is premeditated. And he planned on doing this. Now, if it just happened to be, afterwards where he already strangled her out and then he just wanted to post him up next to the dead body after he done choked her out and was out here like, yeah, hooray, beer type of stuff. I mean, then yeah, psychopath. That means he absolutely lost his mind. Being in a drunken rage would not make you do this. This is nuts. I mean, the fact that he actually wanted to sit there and post up and celebrate that he actually killed this woman, that's Looney Tunes.
Like he was proud.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, I think a lot of he was on alcohol, he was on drugs, they met at a bar, and, a combination of both the alcohol and the drugs, and with the adolescence of him being 17 years old, I think all contributed to the act of wanting to record and wanting to murder.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this take sounds like a big pile of doggy doo-doo to me. I mean, this doesn't make any sense. The fact that the man's 17, years old, he's young and adolescent, was, maybe on some drugs and on some pills and drinking and whatnot would cause him to want to do this. I'm like, listen, I've been hammered quite a few times. I've had some wild nights, especially back when I was in college, and I have never got to the point where I was like, oh yeah, let me commit a crime and then record it afterwards and make sure I show it to people, or just have this sitting around the house like a videotape or a VHS sitting on a closet like an old porn video. No, that's not what I got. And that's not what I get out of this whole situation. It just reeks of psychopathic behavior. Just means that this guy was probably Looney Tunes beforehand. That's the only thing I can think of. Like I said earlier, I think this man was out here probably vlogging on some type of other platform, more than likely expressing his thoughts that nobody paid attention to, probably ignored by his parents or all sorts of other things. He didn't get any action. He didn't have any friends. This guy was in a dark place. And quite frankly, that's what probably led to this. So I just think he was ultimately a loose cannon, and that's what happened when you get in a situation and somebody laughs at you in the most embarrassing situation that you can imagine at that age.
And is that something that we get
women don't do that.
More, Constable Shike, because of social media? Everyone wants to be a social media star. Everyone wants to flaunt what they've done on social media.
Yeah, I think it's sad. Social media and media in general has played a major role in, the mental health of men and of women and in dating relationships. Watching the Kardashians, watching a lot of these soap operas that you see on TV and on.
Okay, let's stop. It feels like they're starting to lose the plot here. I don't think social media has anything to do with this. Like most people, I'm pretty sure everybody knows if you record yourself committing a crime on social media, that clout is not going to really be gain for any monetary value. It's going to just get you convicted. That's the only thing it's going to do. He's not going to be able to post that stuff up on YouTube or even on Kick of all terrible platforms or on Rumble of all horrible, shitty platforms and actually be able to garner some clout. They're going to be like, oh, this guy posted a murder. The only place he's going to be able to post that is somewhere on the dark web, somewhere where you can find some beheading videos or something like that. This isn't going to gain him anything. I don't think anybody is that stupid to actually believe that, oh, let me kill this hooker and let me see if I can actually get some money out of it. Nobody thinks that.
And Lady McCallum, let's bring you back into the conversation. When we talk about someone who may be mentally unstable and you are considering dating them, what are some of the signs you should look for and you should ultimately come to the decision, I'm getting the hell out of here?
So it's one of those things where the red flags aren't always there because people mask so well. Mm-hmm. And then you get into a situation where you think you have somebody who's a great person and then they turn violent like that. And it happens so much faster when you have someone that's narcissistic or with mental illness. But I mean, none of this is going to change until we get free mental health in the United States or anywhere else. I know this wasn't in the United States, but there are women being murdered daily, weekly, monthly here in the USA. Us as women, we personally always know someone who has been murdered by an intimate partner. And we also know someone who's been murdered by a stranger.
Now, I hate to be that guy, but this isn't the only place women are being murdered. It's not. The United States is not the only place where women are getting chopped up, bodied, killed, beheaded, raped and destroyed, burned, set on fire and stuff like that. It's just not. It's not the only place where this is happening. People are murdered every other minute, it feels like. I mean, there's always somebody being killed for murder. I mean, that's why murder still exists. I mean, that's why it's still a thing. That's why murder mysteries, crime stories, all of that are always a big deal, because guess what? It seems like it resonates to a large amount of people because it happens everywhere. It's not just here. It's just throughout the world. Having free healthcare isn't going to fix that. Now, it would help in some circumstances where people can get some counseling and whatnot beforehand. But quite frankly, the reason why this happens is because nobody diagnoses and recognizes the red flags before they get there.
And it's always a man, and it's always over rejection. It's always over rejection.
Now, this I agree with. It pretty much is 100% this way. There isn't a situation most of the time where a man gets his rocks off and then they commit the murder then. No, most of the time they want to go back to the source and get their rocks off again. So they aren't usually going to kill that chick in those circumstances. They usually are going to let her come back. Mostly it's because, they were either rejected, they got made fun of, there was some type of scamming of money or funds or something like that that caused them to snap.
So this isn't really a question of mental health as far as a broad spectrum of mental health. This is a question of mental health specifically for men. The violence against women is something that is very, very paramount to how we behave in society in America. Like, we hear about a woman getting shot in the face for rejecting men at a bar, and nobody blinks an eye. Mm-hmm. So this isn't something that's not happening. We're just not talking about it.
This kid more than likely displayed over-the-top, raging, emotional outburst already in front of his peers. Whether that was on some type of gaming forum or platform, on the internet, out there in the hallway, when some chick, made fun of him or laughed at him, I guarantee you he's lashed out in a way that was a little psychotic and a little scary way before this happened. This isn't the first time, and we gotta stop acting like it's the first time or there was no signs beforehand that didn't happen. No, sometimes there are people who are really good at playing that role and then go crazy later. Those are like the narcissistic type of people that do stuff like that. But most of the time, there are signs, and those signs are pretty obvious. We just ignore them for whatever reason, mostly because people just hate addressing things.
And Maisha, for those who may find themselves stuck in a situation, they have committed to this person, and now those signs come out, those warning signs, those red flags, you're seeing them clearly now. What would be your best advice to someone dealing with a relationship like that?
Now, this woman here goes on and gives some pretty good advice about how you're not stuck and you're not alone, and the fact that there are resources to help you get out of these situations, and you do need to find a way to seek those out and realize that there shouldn't be no shame in those situations, which is great and ideal under most circumstances. But there are going to be some idiots out there who think, the same thing about Cassie trying to leave Diddy. Like, why didn't you just seek out any of these resources? Well, in some cases, there's a reason why people call certain individuals the boogeyman, because the boogeyman is somebody who pops out every corner that you turn. There's somebody who you can't get away from them. The boogeyman is everywhere. They're literally all over the place. and you can't seem to escape. And so it causes these mental games, this psychiatric, hell that these people get stuck in, because quite frankly, they're scared. They don't know. They don't want to die. Nobody wants to be murdered or savagely, gruesomely beaten because somebody just can't handle rejection, or they can't handle the fact that, hey, this relationship isn't working out and I don't want to be with you. Unfortunately, a lot of these guys in these situations, and it's not just guys, but it is mostly men in these situations, they are scary to be around. And once you realize that they start to change and they start to morph, mentally, then it's hard to get out of those situations and you don't know what to do. Because yes, men and women are different. We all know that. And it is one of those things we all know that yes, most men can whoop almost any chick. Not all of them, because there are sometimes some physical disadvantages toward men towards women, who some women are pretty dang strong. But we're not talking about those right now. We're not talking about the outliers. We're talking about the common, most generic and basic and more often scenarios that most people will be in life. And that is the fact that most men can physically control that woman from leaving sometimes. And that's really hard and scary to think about, and it's hard for them to get away. Well, either way, if you like this video, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I like doing little videos like this, and I'm going to try to keep them a little bit shorter for you guys. So, yeah, have a good day. Peace. I don't know how I got to the end of this video and failed to pay attention or realize that this woman was 28 years old. She was 28 to his 17. So if you're one of those people that believe Geppettos deserve the electric chair, then this might be something that you think was justified.